Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadana Jivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadana Jivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna. Go, Premanande. Hari Hari Bo. So, I think we're going to read for until 11 o'clock, right? Then we're going to have discussion. So, do you have something you want to read, Prabhu? Did you find something?
If they asked me to say something, I would read a purport.
Okay, so there's 5 of us here. So we got 5 minutes each. We'll read something, and you want to speak some realization. Or... Chaitanya Charitamrita.
I got a Bhagavad-Gita. I'm not so advanced.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, 5 minutes.
Okay. Would you like to?
Thank you. No, I'm good. Srila Prabhupada ki. So this being a Sankirtan festival, celebrating the hard work, the wonderful service that all you Prabhus offered to Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya. This is a purport that I read recently that I thought was very nice. It's from the 6th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, text number 32.
Hare Krishna, Rajendranand Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, can you come near to the white chair or on the half circle? Near to the half circle? Because camera is there actually.
Hare Krishna. He is okay, I guess I should read that. Atma pam yena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjana sukam vayadi vadukam sayogi paramomata. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true quality of all beings, both in their happiness and their distress. O Arjuna. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. One who is Krishna conscious is a perfect yogi. He's aware of everyone's happiness and distress by dint of his own personal experience. The cause of the distress of a living entity is forgetfulness of his relationship with God. The cause of happiness is knowing Krishna to be the supreme enjoyer of all the activities of the human being, the proprietor of all lands and planets, and the sincerest friend of all living entities. The perfect yogi knows that the living being who is conditioned by the modes of material nature is subjected to the threefold material miseries due to forgetfulness of his relationship with Krishna. And because one in Krishna consciousness is happy, he tries to distribute the knowledge of Krishna everywhere. Since the perfect yogi tries to broadcast the importance of becoming Krishna conscious, he's the best philanthropist in the world. And he is the dearest servitor of the Lord. Nacha tasman manusheshu kaschin me priya kritamaha. Bhagavad-Gita 1869. In other words, a devotee of the Lord always looks to the welfare of all living entities. In this way, he is factually the friend of everyone. He's the best yogi because he does not desire perfection in yoga for his personal benefit, but tries for others also. He does not envy his fellow living entities. Here is a contrast between a pure devotee of the Lord and a yogi interested only in his personal elevation. The yogi who is withdrawn to a secluded place in order to meditate perfectly may not be as perfect as a devotee who is trying his best to turn every man towards Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai. So I'm going to read from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is from the Adi Lila, chapter 9, text 26. Now, as you all know, there's the tree of devotional service. So this is in relation to that tree. This is Adi 9:26. Since Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the original trunk, the taste of the fruits that grew on the branches and sub-branches surpassed the taste of nectar. The fruits ripened and became sweet and nectarian. The gardener, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, distributed them without asking any price. All the wealth in the three worlds cannot equal the value of one such nectarian fruit of devotional service. Not considering who asked for it and who did not, nor who was fit and who was unfit to receive it, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu distributed the fruit of devotional service. Purport: this is the sum and substance of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. There is no distinction made between those who are fit and those who are not fit to hear or to take part in the Sankirtan movement. It should therefore be preached without discrimination. The only purpose of the preachers of the Sankirtan movement must be to go on preaching without restriction. That is the way in which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced this Sankirtan movement to the world. The Transcendental Gardener, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, distributed handful after handful of fruit in all directions, and when the poor, hungry people ate the fruits, the gardener smiled with great pleasure. Lord Chaitanya thus addressed the multifarious varieties of branches and sub-branches of the tree of devotional service. Srila Prabhupada said this ISKCON society is also another of the branches of the Chaitanya tree. Since the tree of devotional service is transcendental, every one of its parts can perform the action of all the others. Although a tree is supposed to be immovable, this tree nevertheless moves. And those are the book distributors that travel around the world distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. It is our experience in the material world, this is purport, that trees stand in one place, but in the spiritual world, a tree can go from one place to another. Therefore, everything in the spiritual world is called alukya, alukika, uncommon or transcendental. Another feature of such a tree is that it can act universally. In the material world, the roots of a tree go deep within the earth to gather food, but in the spiritual world, the twigs, branches, and leaves of the upper portion of the tree can act like the roots. All the parts of this tree are spiritually cognizant, and thus, as they grow, they spread all over the world. I am the only gardener. How many places can I go? How many fruits can I pick and distribute? Said Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Here, this is the purport. Here, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu indicates that the distribution of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra should be performed by combined forces. Although he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he laments, quote, "How can I act alone? How can I alone pick the fruit and distribute it all over the world?" Unquote. This indicates that all classes of devotees should combine to distribute the Hare Krishna Mahamantra without consideration of time, place, or situation. It would certainly be a very laborious task to pick the fruits and distribute them alone, and still I suspect that some would receive them and others would not. Therefore, I order every man within this universe to accept this Krishna consciousness movement and distribute it everywhere. I'll just read the purport real quick. And then we'll go. In this connection, there is a song by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I'll just read the English. The Sankirtan movement has been introduced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just to dispel the illusion of Maya, by which everyone in this material world thinks himself to be a product of matter and therefore have many duties pertaining to the body. Actually, the living entity is not this material body. He is a spirit soul. He has a spiritual need to be eternally blissful and full of knowledge, but unfortunately, he identifies himself with the body, sometimes as a human being, sometimes as an animal, sometimes as a tree, sometimes as an aquatic, sometimes as a demigod, and so on. Thus, with each change of body, he develops a different type of consciousness with different types of activities, and thus becomes increasingly entangled in material existence, transmigrating perpetually from one body to another. Under the spell of Maya or illusion, he does not consider the past or future, but is simply satisfied with the short life span that he has gotten for the present. To eradicate this illusion, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has brought the Sankirtan movement, and he requests everyone to accept and distribute it. A person who is actually a follower of Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur must immediately accept the request of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by offering respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet, and thus beg from him the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If one is fortunate enough to beg from the Lord this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, his life is successful. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai.
Can I continue just reading from that?
What do you want to do?
Yeah. Okay.
I got
Okay. Is that all right? Absolutely.
That's perfectly all right. You're a smart.
It's your duty. Don't cry to your mommy. No, but it's for a good cause that I have to go in the kitchen. So you.
I'm sure it is.
Why? Thank you.
We're looking forward to it.
Hey, Govinda. So this has always been one of my favorite set of verses. I hope no one's read them already, but they're ever fresh. From the CC. Let me just get my life airs adjusted here. Prabhupada said there was a big storm like this in Mayapur. Lots of wind and things being blown around. And the devotee said, is this inauspicious? Prabhupada said, no, very auspicious. It's starting to be clean. Things are getting cleared out. So I'm thinking that, as Vijay said the other day, that we had a good year, and next year's going to be better. So I think Krishna's getting us set up for clearing everything out for another nice, even bigger year on Sankirtan. So these are from the Adi Leela, chapter 9, and verses 9 through 42. Not all of them, just some excerpts from them. Lord Chaitanya thought, my name is Vishvambar, one who maintains the entire universe. Its meaning will be actualized if I can fill the whole universe with love of Godhead. Thinking in this way, he accepted the duty of a planter and began to grow a garden in Navadvip. Thus the Lord brought the desired tree of devotional service to this earth and became its gardener. He sowed the seed and sprinkled upon it the water of his will. By his inconceivable powers, the Lord became the gardener, the trunk, the branches simultaneously. The branches of the Chaitanya tree formed a cluster or society with great branches covering all over the universe. The fruits ripened and became sweet and nectarian. The gardener, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, distributed them without asking any price. All the wealth in the three worlds cannot equal the value of one such nectarian fruit of devotional service. Not considering who asked for it and who did not, nor who was fit or who was unfit to receive it, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu distributed the fruit of devotional service. The Transcendental Gardener, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, distributed handful after handful of the fruit in all directions. And when the poor, hungry people ate that fruit, the gardener smiled with great pleasure. Then Lord Chaitanya thought, I'm the only gardener. How many places can I go? How many fruits can I pick and distribute? It would certainly be a very laborious task to pick the fruit, then distribute them alone. And I still suspect that some would receive them and others would not. Therefore, I order every man within this universe to accept this Krishna consciousness movement and distribute it everywhere. I'm the only gardener, and if I do not distribute these fruits, what shall I do with them? How many fruits can I eat alone? Distribute this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Let people eat these fruits and ultimately become free from old age and death. It is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. So this is the ethos or the mood of book distribution, that we're taking the fruits given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and we are distributing them. We are helping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to distribute them. And the fact of the matter is, As we will describe later on, the devotees will share stories. People are hungry. People want these fruits. They're out there. So, Hare Krishna. And they can hear in the kitchen. Did we check? Very good. What are we doing? I'm sorry? All right. Yeah. Yeah, I know how to click it. Oh, next? Read that. Okay, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 9, verse 43. Praninam upakaraya yadeveha paratra cha karmanam nasavacha tadeva matiman bhajit. Okay. By his work, thoughts, and words, an intelligent man must perform actions which will be beneficial for all living entities in this life and the next. Purport. Unfortunately, people in general do not know what is to take place in the next life. To prepare oneself for his next life is common sense, and that is a principle of the Vedic civilization. But presently, people throughout the world do not believe in the next life. Even influential professors and other educators say that as soon as the body is finished, everything is finished. This atheistic philosophy is killing human civilization. People are irresponsibly performing all sorts of sinful activities, and thus the privilege of the human life is being taken away by the educational propaganda of the so-called leaders. Actually, it is a fact that this life is meant for preparation for the next life. By evolution, one has come through many species or forms, and this human form of life is an opportunity to promote oneself to a better life. Excuse me. This is explained in the Bhagavad-Gita 9.25. Yanti deva vrata devan pitrin yanti bhatrivataha bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti manjajino pimam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors. And those who worship me will live with me. Therefore, one may promote himself to the higher planetary systems, which are the residents of the demigods. One can promote himself to Pitraloka. One can remain on the earth, or one can also go back home, back to Godhead. This is further confirmed elsewhere in the Bhagavad-Gita 4.9. Tyakpa deham punarjanmanaiti mameti sojana. After giving up the body, one who knows Krishna in truth does not come back again to this world to accept the material body, but he goes back home, back to Godhead. This knowledge is in the Shastras, and people should be given the opportunity to understand it. Even if one is not able to go back to Godhead in one life, the Vedic civilization at least gives one the opportunity to be promoted to the higher planetary systems, where the demigods live, and not glide down again to animal life. At present, people do not understand this knowledge, although it constitutes a great science, for they are uneducated and trained not to accept it. This is the horrible condition of modern human society. As such, the Krishna consciousness movement is the only hope to direct the attention of intelligent men to a greater benefit in life. And that hope is especially fulfilled by those who spread the message through Srila Prabhupada's books. Hare Krishna.
Let's continue. Mahaprabhu says, I am merely a gardener. I have neither a kingdom nor very great riches. I simply have some fruits and flowers that I wish to utilize to achieve piety in my life. Purport. In performing welfare activities for human society, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu presents himself as being not very rich, thus indicating that a man need not to be rich or opulent to act for the welfare of humanity. Sometimes rich men are very proud that they can perform beneficial activities for human society, whereas others cannot. A practical example is that when there is a scarcity of food in India on account of meager rainfall, some members of the richer class very proudly distribute foodstuffs, making huge arrangements with the help of the government, as if merely by such activities people will be benefited. Suppose there was no food grain. How would the rich men distribute food? Production of grain is completely in the hands of God. If there were no rain, there would be no grain, and these so-called rich men would be unable to distribute grain to the people. Although I am acting as a gardener, I also want to be the tree, for thus I can bestow benefit upon all. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most benevolent personality in human society because his only desire is to make people happy. His Sankirtana movement is especially meant for the purpose of making people happy. He wanted to become the tree himself because a tree is said to be the most benevolent living entity. In the following verse, which is from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:22-33, Krishna himself highly praises the existence of a tree. Just see how these trees are maintaining every living entity. Their birth is successful. Their behavior is just like that of great personalities, for anyone who asks anything from a tree never goes away disappointed. According to Vedic civilization, Kshatriyas are considered to be great personalities because if anyone goes to a Kshatriya king to ask for charity, the king will never refuse. The trees are compared to those noble Kshatriyas because everyone derives all kinds of benefits from them. Some people take fruit, others take flowers, others take leaves, others take twigs, and others even cut the tree. And yet the tree gives to everyone without hesitation. What do you think? Okay. Right. You can continue for the second half of the purport.
Right here?
Yeah.
Continuing the purport. This verse, quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam, was spoken by Lord Krishna to his friends when he was taking rest underneath a tree after his pastime of stealing the clothes of the gopis, Vastraharana Leela. By quoting this verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us that we should be tolerant like trees, and also beneficial like trees, which give everything to the needy persons who come underneath them. A needy person may derive many advantages from trees and also from many animals, but in modern civilization, people have become so ungrateful that they exploit the trees and animals and kill them. These are some of the sinful activities of modern civilization. Next verse. The descendants of the tree, the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, were very glad to receive this order directly from the Lord. Purport. It is the desire of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that the benevolent activities of the Sankirtana movement, which was inaugurated 500 years ago in Navadvip, be spread all over the world for the benefit of all human beings. Unfortunately, there are many so-called followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who are satisfied simply to construct a temple, make a show of the deities, collect some funds, and utilize them for eating and sleeping. There is no question of their preaching the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world. But even though they are unable to do so, if anyone else does it, they become envious. This is the condition of the modern followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The age of Kali is so strong that it affects even the so-called followers of Lord Chaitanya. At least the followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must come out of India to preach his cult all over the world, for this is the mission of Lord Chaitanya. The followers of Lord Chaitanya must execute his will with heart and soul, being more tolerant than the trees and humbler than the straw in the street.
Sure. Yeah, at this point, we'd just like to also welcome everyone who's online with us today. I don't have my glasses, but it looks like we have about 5 people on Zoom with us. Excellent. So, yeah, we have a few devotees here with us, and we would also like to hear stories from the devotees online with us. So, we'll just go around and we could all share a little bit about our experiences on book distribution. So, with Paneshri, would you like to share some experiences?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Oh, sorry, I'm in the kitchen and I'm cooking, but I'm
Okay.
I can't think of one off the top of my head right now. I just wanted to share a couple of comments with what the reading was just now. First thing is I was thinking about, the reading that Badinarayan Maharaj was quoting. He was saying how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I cannot distribute all these fruits by myself, so I would like, other people to help me. But we know that the Lord can do anything by himself. So it's only for our benefit.
Mataji, can you maybe put your mouth a little further away from the microphone? It's very loud.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Prabhu.
Okay. So we're gonna turn on the volume so in the temple room we can hear very loud. But yeah, go ahead. Okay, you can
Is
continue.
that better?
That's better. Thank you.
Okay. So I was saying how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we understand that the Lord can actually do anything. He can distribute anything by himself. But it's for our benefit and for our enjoyment that he allows us to serve him by distributing. Because we know even the little bit that I distribute once in a blue moon, we understand the satisfaction and the joy. The satisfaction and the joy we get by sharing Krishna consciousness with other people. And also the other thing I was thinking about was just also what I think was somebody else was reading in the beginning. I can't remember. Maybe it was Vijay Prabhu was reading, and he was saying how under any time, place, or circumstance we should distribute. And here we are in a circumstance where we cannot come in contact with people, but yet how many books you have distributed? How many books, through that whole giving, the gift of giving, Live to Give campaign, which shows not only the importance, but unstoppability, right, of book distribution in Krishna consciousness. So that's just a couple of points that I wanted to share. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I'm going to say a few things that happened during this marathon. And if we run out of things, if devotees run out of things to say, I have a lot more things to say about book distribution or pastimes, book distribution pastimes. Probably the most interesting experience I had during this marathon was I had set up a table, or I was setting up a table at PB, and this man came up and he said, do you have the $50 stack? I said, yeah. So I started setting it up. And he said, well, I'll be back. I'll get it later. And for anybody that's distributed books for some time, generally that doesn't happen. So I was thinking, oh, he's just playing the game. So when he came back about an hour later, and he said, oh, yeah, you're still here? Okay, yeah, good. I'll be back. I'll come back. So now twice, he's stretching the game. So then a couple hours later, he came back, and he said, all right, I'll take the stack. And he gave $50. I couldn't believe it. So then I said, that's amazing. I had not even set up my table yet. And you came and you asked for all these books. And he said, well, I've met you before. And you offered these books to me. And what's interesting in this pastime is that I nor any other book distributors asked for $50 for a stack. None of us. Anybody? None of us. None of us. I don't know where he got that from. So anyway, so I said, that's amazing that you came and you asked for this stack of books. And he said, well, I met you before. I didn't take any books, but this morning I got up and I was thinking I should get those books, but where am I going to find that monk? Yeah. And I go all over SanDiego. I go to PV and La Jolla and, the park, Balboa Park, and just, all over the place. But Krishna inspired me to go there, and he got this, he got like 7 books, Saptarishi. So that was kind of interesting, a good way to start the day and finish the day. He came just at the end. He was there at the beginning and just at the end. So I had another interesting, actually probably the most dramatic experience I've ever had on book distribution at Balboa Park. I was distributing books in one area, and the books weren't going out. For an hour I was there, and I think distributed one book. And sometimes when you're distributing it and it's not going good in one area, you move to another area, and it sometimes it actually quite often it gets better. So I did that, moved to another spot, and I was there for about 15 minutes, and this madman came around, and he was just going around. He was trying to fight people. He would go up to people and just intimidate them. He threw his shirt off, he's got his bare chest and just going up and trying to fight people. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this isn't such a good spot here after all. So then he comes over and he starts banging on my table. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what's going on? So one Kshatriya came by and he got on his case. Hey, back off. And the guy he wasn't very big, the madman. He was kind of, so he backed off, and my Krishna sent this bodyguard to protect me. But then the guy backed off, and then this person that helped me out, he thought, oh, he's gone. And then he left, and then the madman came back. So he's banging on the table again, and he grabs the SSR, Science of Self-Realization. He takes off, trying to fight other people. Yeah, he just went mad. So then he got wind that someone had called the police. So he went and he kind of hid and sat down at a table, and then the police did come, and they picked him up. He left the book there on the table, so I went over and got the book. Actually, it would have been good if he would have kept it, and I don't know if they would have let him take it to jail, or I don't know. But he was a very disturbed person. So then I'm thinking, all right, let me try to get back into it here after that dramatic experience. So then people started taking books like anything. I was amazed, just people taking books like anything. And then these 2 guys came from South Africa. I had been to South Africa many times. So I said, yeah, I know South Africa. And I was talking to them. And I offered the book. I showed the Bhagavad-Gita to them, and they said, nah, we're not readers. We don't read, so but we're not gonna take the book. So I said, well, all right. Would you like to give a donation? And one of the guys said, yeah, all right. So he said, this is your lucky day. He gave $100. Yeah. It's always good to ask for donations if they don't take a book, because sometimes it's a very common thing, especially in Australia. They're nice people, if they don't take a book, they'll still give you, and they give nice donations also. So that's something to remember. So yeah, that actually it started out at a very difficult day, but it ended up really nice. Did all my books. Yeah, I didn't tell him it was his lucky day. We all know that. Probably the best day in his life. And then I had an experience just recently, just a couple of days ago. I was distributing books in front at OB, in front of that market. What's it called? Apple Tree. It's a great place, I'm telling you. I distributed books in LA for 30 years. And I'm distributing books here, maybe about 6 or 7 places, and they're all good. All of these places, 6 or 7 places, they're all better than LA places. There's not one of these places that is not better. I mean, there's in LA they have Santa Monica Promenade, which is so difficult, and then they have the Venice Beach, also so difficult. But all the places here are just so sweet. I just can't believe it. It's like heaven for a book distributor. You know? So I'm in front of this store, Apple Tree, and people are taking books and giving me nice donations, and it's just sweet nectar. So this lady comes by, and I recognize her. She says, "Oh, yeah. Hey, nice to see you again. I got a book from you." I said, "Well, you like it?" "Oh, I love it." And she had just gotten out of the store, and she still had her change. She said, "Here, take this." Here, it was $10. Yeah, I like it so much. Here, take some more. You know, she just gave me another $10. So people appreciate Prabhupada's books. You know, we just have to get out there. I mean, this is and SanDiego is just telling you this place is so sweet for book distribution. I'm Krishna's mercy that this COVID-19 took place. Otherwise, I'd still be in LA, struggling in LA. But this is sweet as pie here. Okay, here's Maharaj.
You can pick up again. I've just got to get something out of the oven. So you were talking about dramatic days on Sankirtan. This is a long time ago. I was a temple president in a little temple, Ann Arbor, Michigan, University of Michigan. And there was a devotee, Dayal Natai. He actually later on moved out and worked on Fate, and he's a very, very nice devotee. He's an artist, super gentle, super shy. And I was always encouraging him, go out on Sankirtan, come out with us. It's so much fun. And, you know, Krishna says, I'm adventure. And this is it. You know, you put yourself at the mercy of the Lord, and he reciprocates. You got to. Took me about 3 months. I finally got him to go out. He just got initiated, Dayal Natai, Bhakta Dan, Dayal Natai. And we were doing door to door. And in the evenings, you know, like around 6 o'clock, people are coming home. It's a good time. And we would have a little kirtan, 3 devotees, a little Harinam party. And then we'd alternate houses, you know, 2 different parties, and knocking on doors, house, home to home. We had a map. We were going to get every house in the city. We were going to knock on their door. So I swear to you, I finally got him to go out. He was so shy. The first house he knocked on, first door, first time out on Sankirtan, he knocks on the door. I was standing with him just to give him some encouragement. So I was with him to help me, you know. I said, you talk, I'll be here if you get into trouble. So he knocks on the door. There's a delay, and then we hear someone coming. And, you know, they under the different locks. The door opens up, and it was a little old lady. And I always told them, I said, put the book in their hand, because then people, it's just like herd instinct. They've got it in their hand. They get attached to it. I said, and if nothing else, they've touched the book and they've seen Krishna. I said, so put the book in her hand. So she didn't say anything. He didn't say anything. He was so, and he put the Sri Upanishad in her hand. She looked at the Sri Upanishad, and she looked at him. Nice tilak. She looked at him. She looked at the Sri Upanishad. She looked at him, and she fell over, boom, like a felled tree. Oh! The family members, they were having dinner. They came, oh, you killed Granny. So it was a whole thing. And she was gone. Granny was gone. Oh, they called 911. The ambulance came. So I have to admit, Dayal Natai was a little unnerved by the experience. He said to me, he says, oh, does that happen very often? I said, no, that's the first time, you know. But I told him, and it's true. I said, she was just She was just in that body, waiting for a Vishnu Duta, waiting for a devotee to show up. I said, you think about it. She's been dragging on for 90 years. Who knows, you know, foolishly wasting her time. And at the last minute, She's looking at Krishna, looking at devotee, looking at. I said, I hope I'm so lucky, you know. So Krishna says, I'm adventure on Sankirtan. You ever anybody keel over you? Was that a first?
That never happened. But I'll tell you an interesting thing that happened. This is in Las Vegas. You know Radharani Dasi in Los Angeles.
Oh, I do.
Yeah. Yeah. She was distributing books in Las Vegas. And she had distributed a book to a guy in the parking lot. It was like a 7-Eleven or something. And she distributed the book to the guy. Nice guy. And then she goes to the store, and while she's in the store, she starts hearing the shooting. And everybody's like, what's going on? They went out to see. The guy was shot down dead. He had just gotten I don't know which book he got. He had just gotten the book. Some guys came, shot him dead.
And then he's wondering what happened to the Gita. I was in Detroit, and I'm in Detroit. Ford Motor Company poured hundreds of millions of dollars with government aid to try to revive the city. And they built a place called Renaissance Center. It's a whole story. Prabhupada's on a morning walk. You look down, you sight down the Detroit River, which had caught on fire. And they took 2 weeks to put it out. Shows you the nature of the place. Prabhupada was looking, you could sight down the river, down the park, and you could see this big, stack of skyscrapers, deluxe offices and apartment buildings. So Prabhupada said, what is this? And Ambarish, innocent young Ambarish in those days said, oh, Prabhupada, it's Ford Motor Center, and they're going to revive the city. It's called Renaissance Center. Prabhupada said, you can write it down. There will be no Renaissance. And the whole thing was a complete flop. And Detroit is a heavy place. So I'm out doing books one time, and there's people out there. There's a guy out there selling watches, just like the movie, stolen watches, hey, want a watch, buddy, And I was going up to cars, and I was getting in his way, and he was a big guy, and he started pushing me around, and, I was a skinny little brahmachari, and he's pushing me around, and, I wasn't going to leave, and, we tried different, it was a whole thing, And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a big black guy came, and just with one whack, just decked the guy, turned to me and said, you're a monk, and I hate an unfair fight. And he walked back in. So there's many examples of like that Krishna just sends someone to protect the Sankirtan devotee. It comes out of nowhere, does his job, and then he's gone.
Javita Prabhu, would you like to share something?
I haven't done much book distribution, but I have a story like that on Harinam. Hollywood. We went out on Harinam. We used to go every Saturday night when I was in LA, 75, 76, 77. So I was leading the party, and we had a whole line of devotees, and there's all these movie theaters, And there was a long line of people waiting to get into one movie theater. So we were going single file, next to that line. And one guy steps out. He looked a little tipsy, maybe he's a little drunk. And he wants to deck me, And he gives a swing. Now, he was a little drunk, so I just stepped back, and he missed. And then his second try, another guy came out and decked him. And I said, Hare Krishna, and we just went right around the whole thing and we kept going. So it happened to Stumba, too, in the University of Pennsylvania. He's such a gentle guy preaching, and some big guy, just lifted him right off, and he was ready to beat him up. And some other guy came out and beat up the guy who was attacking him.
Pranam, Hare Krishna. So, volume. Just wanted to thank Vineshri for sharing that. I do like you. I like the fact that you mentioned the point that it is ultimately our benefit. Krishna can distribute all these books by himself, but it's really us who gets the benefit. Just a couple of interesting things that happened in this last month. I'll just wear my heart on my sleeve for a little bit. But there's a couple 2-3 days out of the marathon that was probably not just the realest days of the marathon, but probably some of the realest days I've ever had in my career in Krishna consciousness. I've heard from several devotees that they would spend hours and hours out on book distribution. Vijay Prabhu would say this all the time, that when he was a young brahmachari, they would be out on book distribution for 12 hours. Or Javita Prabhu, he would say in the early days, devotees would be out on Harinam for 12 hours. And I was thinking, wow, that sounds very austere. But I wanted to immerse myself in that sort of intensity. And so I actually tried that for several days. I began on the 25th Christmas, which was also Gita Jayanti, which was also Ekadashi. And I was just trying to push Gitas. But after the first couple of days, I was pretty worn out because all I had time to do was basically morning program, get ready, get on books, and then by the time I get back, I just have enough time to take a shower and go to bed. And it was like that for a couple of days. And then on the third day, I was just so worn out. I was fatigued. I didn't get good rest. I was mentally tired. So many different things. And I remember going up to Mukunda and Alex's room and just telling them all these things. But I told them that on the third day, I want to go out for another 12 hours. And before I even started, I was already gassed out. And but I was determined, and I realized then that if you have a desire to do something, we heard this concept of like a second wind. I was on my like fifth or sixth wind, and nothing was gonna stop me because I wanted to do that service. And so I'm out there distributing books, and it was just so blissful. By Krishna's grace, that day I distributed over 170 books and raised around like 400 Lakshmi. But what I realized was that why that moment was so impactful for me in my devotional career was because of the intensity of the spirit in which I approached the service. And I realized like that doesn't have to be the marathon. That's every moment of our lives when we fully embrace the practice of Krishna consciousness. Not the marathon is not just December, it's every moment of our lives that we're trying to give Krishna consciousness. So that's one story. Another story is that I wanted to try different things, so I've been going to different places, and I've been distributing books in North County, which I've never done. Oceanside, but I haven't tried Del Mar or Solano Beach or Carlsbad. And so I was there distributing books, and I met one gentleman who was quite interested, and he took all the books, and then he told me that he had purchased a deity of Ganesh in some store in Solano Beach, but he looked it up and he researched that he didn't have the proper education to take care of Ganesh. So he actually asked if he can donate his Ganesh deity to the temple. And so a couple of days later we met, and here he is with us. I'll bring him to the camera. Can they see the Ganesh on the camera?
Yes, they can see now.
He's pretty heavy. He's about probably 50 pounds, 40 to 50 pounds. He's pretty heavy. So that was quite interesting. And at this, we still have each other's contact, so we'll probably be in touch. Cindy wants to make a few more donations. Yeah. So that's just a couple stories.
Hare Krishna. One of the most memorable pastimes that I can remember was I was in back of convention center near Seaport Village, and there was a lot of runners, people that were working out. So I was trying to flag people down, and there was this nice lady. She came. Her name was Andrea. She said, I'll be back. I don't have money." So I said, "Oh, she's never gonna come back." So I was distributing books. She came back, and she actually was very inquisitive. She was inquiring about the books. What is the purpose of life? Why are we here? She was asking these type of questions. So I was. Nobody wanted to come by, so I wanted to just try to, as much as I could give her. And then fast forward, she says, "Okay, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go to my car." She got the books already, and then she came back, and then she said, my mother told me to get your contact number." She said, "My mother visits India all the time, and she's been wanting to read authoritative books." So I gave her my email, and then a few days later, I moved to by the Star of India, the ships. Yeah, harbor. And then I see these three Matajis come by, and then one of them looks at me like she knows me. I said, "Who's this lady?" And then she said, she covered her mouth and she said, "Excuse me, what's your name?" And I said, "My name is Glenn." I thought I was gonna get in trouble. And then she said, You're the one that my daughter was talking about." She said she called me crying after you gave her a book, and then she said, she said, "I've never met someone so nice," something like that. And then she said, I told her to go back and get a contact number. And then I met the mother. And then her and her friends, they all got books also. So yeah. I was here on Pacific Beach and Jashishiragiri. I was here in Pacific Beach, and there was this homeless man that came to my table, and he said, "Hey, I saw you setting up on the other side last time, but I wanted to talk to you." It looked like he was going through a lot of difficulties, but he was very nice. He was very gentle in speech, things like that. And then he said, "Do you have, at least a minute? I really want to talk to you." And then we talked a little bit. And then so I told him, "The reason why you're suffering, there's a cause. Nothing happens by chance." And then so I gave him a science of self-realization, and he apologized. He said, "I only have $3. Is that okay?" And I said, "People that have jobs, they don't even want to give a penny. So you're actually giving more." And then so he gave me his donation. And then before he was about to leave, he was really he actually bowed down, like he and then he was saying, "Thank you very much. I really needed to speak to someone." And then he left.
I don't have any stories as wild as others, but when you said that, I thought of there was one place where had a book table, and one very, very disheveled homeless man walked by, and so I wasn't sure if he was going to give me a hard time if I talked to him. So, but I said, "Hey, hey, how's it going?" And then he looked nice, and so I talked to him for a little bit, and then he wanted to get a book, and I said, "Well, is there anything you could give just as like some kind of donation?" And he felt bad; he didn't have any money, so he said, "Here, He's like, "I'll come back." And so he went to a store nearby. He must have had EBT. I guess this is illegal, but anyway, he went to a store nearby and he got some butter and some bananas and some water and some cream cheese. And he came and gave it to me for like a little book, And he said, this is my favorite. Like he's holding like this, some kind of cream cheese. Like, this is my favorite food. So it was like, from him, it was very meaningful. Like this, I'm going to get you the best, So this is actually pretty nice, this guy. And so there was that.
We were able to use it in offering.
Yeah, so we brought it back to the temple and we added it to the boga. So it was, yeah, we could use it for the offering, which was nice. There was also someone who I saw him. He went by Alex, he went by his table, and he, didn't take a book. And then he also came to my table, and I stopped him. I spoke to him for a little while, but he wasn't interested in a book. But then later that evening, it started raining, or later that afternoon, it started raining. And so, the books are getting wet, the table's getting wet, and I'm trying to pack up. And so the guy sees me, and he kind of runs, like he kind of comes over on a skateboard, and he holds an umbrella, for me while I pack everything up, and he kind of walks me to the car and back and forth, with his umbrella. So that was pretty nice, that guy. He got to do some seva for the books. Also, this Vijay, I was using Vijay Prabhu's old sign, and it said yoga, meditation, philosophy books. And I got a lot of people actually would stop and just say, oh, I'm really interested in specifically philosophy. Oh, I'm studying philosophy. Oh, have you read this philosophy book? Or do you know this philosopher? Like a lot of people, surprising actually. And those people would generally have pretty good questions, and they were quite interested. And those people, like, very often, like the highest percentage, those people would take a book, and specifically I'd give them Bhagavad-Gita. But they had good questions, and they were quite interested. Those were like really nice exchanges of people who liked the philosophy aspect, of course. Yeah, and Vijay was pointing out our book is mostly philosophy. Bhagavad-Gita is a philosophy book. You want to say something?
We have a book. Prabhupada spent years actually with Hayagriva and Shamasundar discussing Western philosophers precisely for that type of person. The book, I don't think it's in print anymore. Do we have that available? Maybe not. But we should probably. Yeah, I know, but that book is specifically designed so that there, we anyway. That we have a book like that. But.
Yeah, I was also distributing books in Pacific Beach, and I hadn't even set up yet. I was just like taking my car down toward the boardwalk, and some like young, kind of handsome surfer, is going by on his bike, a surfboard. I guess he's just got done surfing. He's heading out. He's kind of yells at me, "Where's the kirtan at?" And I said, "What?" And he's like, "Where's the kirtan?" He called it kirtan or something, but he mispronounced it, kartan, something like that. "Where's it at?" And I said, "Oh," so we spoke for a little while. And yeah, he's a young guy. He surfs here, and he's never been to the temple or anything, but he heard about kirtan. He wants to try kirtan, and so he talked about Bhagavad-Gita. And then he's been texting me actually. He texted me like, "When are you going to have your kirtan programs? Let me know when you have your." Nice guy, yeah, young, kind of like looks to me like a young, handsome, kind of wealthy young guy, and somehow he knows about kirtan. And he really wants to come by. He's a nice guy. And but actually, that was something that a lot of people. It's really nice about book distribution when a lot of them like when they was, how can I stay in touch? How can I find out about future programs? And multiple people have have asked or have texted me since then and said, hey, are your programs back up? Hey, they heard about the Christian Lounge, give them the Christian Lounge card, and they'll contact and say, hey, is the Christian Lounge going on now? Can I come by and chant? So that's been really cool. Actually, a lot of people who are like just kind of waiting for things to open back up and like waiting to come by. That's really nice. And they want to come to Bhagavad-Gita class because we talked about Bhagavad-Gita for a while, and they really want to come to a class on it. So that's really nice. And there's something else in that regard. Can't think of it. Another story. Anyway, that's all I have for now.
Yeah, I don't have so many really wild stories or anything like that. But one thing that did happen was the easiest time that I've ever had giving somebody a book. A guy, I was in La Jolla, and a wealthy-looking guy came up with his wife, and he was kind of looking at the books, and I was telling him, I'm a monk. I'm here, distributing these books. And he said, immediately he said, oh, pulls out his wallet. He gave me $40. He said, I like monks. And he took every book and just, yeah, I didn't even have to, say anything. And so yeah, that was pretty sweet. And there was, I was at Target in Claremont out front, and it was a really slow day. I had been to one place before that was like really, really slow. And then
so yeah, I went to this Target after, and it was still pretty slow around Christmas time. And so yeah, nobody was really taking books. I was a little uninspired. And a lady came up, and I think she worked at the Target. And she said, Hare Krishna. I said, Hare Krishna. And she was looking at the books, and I showed her Bhagavad-Gita, and then usually I say, oh, in this particular version of Bhagavad-Gita, it was translated here by this Indian Swami, and I show a picture of Prabhupada. She's like, I met him, and she's like, I met him in 1976. I met him. I took my kids to go see him, and what was that? I'm not sure where. She said I have to go. I think she worked at Target, so I think she had to go in. But she said, yeah, my kids went to Gurukul. I was like, she didn't seem. Yeah, I was really surprised. Yeah, she said, oh yeah, my kids went to Gurukul. But yeah, she said, oh, I've never been to the temple here. But yeah, it was strange because she didn't seem like she was. Yeah, I guess I just wouldn't have expected that. But yeah, so that was pretty sweet. And let's see what else. Oh, there was a young guy in Ocean Beach, and he had met Mukunda actually a couple nights before. And so he came, and he got a perfection of yoga, I think, from Mukunda. And his name is Carlos. Or he got a Bhagavad-Gita. And he got a perfection of yoga from me the day after he met Mukunda. And then, so the day after that, we were there in Ocean Beach, and he comes and he says, that was a really good book. I read it all in one go. And he said, I'd like to buy 5 of them. Because he said, I want to give them to my friends. The perfection of yoga. Yeah, so that was nice. He was a nice guy, and whenever we'd go to Ocean Beach, we'd see him. He'd come up to the table. Yeah, so I think that's all I have. Not so many crazy stories, but yeah.
So, Hare Krishna. What is this Ganesh right in the middle? Acha. Very nice. Who's clearing the path for the book distributors? That's very blissful. The power of one book. And I was telling Alex the other day that in Burma, now it's called Myanmar, we have a amazing yatra there. We have about 15 temples, probably 600 initiated devotees. There's a lot going on there. And it used to be part of India. So there it is. But how did it all get started? I asked the zonal supervisor for Burma, Srivas Pandit. Well, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Let me say this. Burma, it's just coming out of it, and it's still under the thumb of a very oppressive military dictatorship. They raised the price on food oil, and the monks, they have 6,000 monks in the country. The monks went out in the streets in support of the people that, as a protest, they're starving, you can't do this. And the military just set up machine guns and machine gunned them down. The official figure is at least 3,000 monks were killed. And they think it was probably, I don't remember, they think it was close to 6,000. Maybe, yeah, Buddhist monks. So the point is that to get a cell phone was $1,300 because they really didn't want you to have a cell phone. If more than 4 people gathered together that weren't part of the same family, you could be arrested for a seditious gathering. So it's a World Heritage Forest, and there's a reason I'm mentioning these things.
It's the largest teakwood forest in the world. Much of it has not been explored. There's black rhinos. There's all kinds of far out things in there. The United Nations has declared it a World Heritage Site. It belongs to the culture of the world. The military government in Burma sold it to the Chinese, and the Chinese were just sending bulldozers, just bulldozering through the thing to get the teakwood out of it, It was stopped by Aung San Suu Kyi that, she actually stopped it finally. So gives you a taste of the place. And people were just fleeing. You'd have university professors, you'd have, because you couldn't get a job, so many things. And they would literally go through the jungle mountains to Thailand to get a job as a taxi cab driver, just to get out of the country and feed their family. So there was a young man who wanted to learn English. Well, let me say this first. There were a group of doctors from Myanmar, from Burma, that were on a medical convention in New York City, in Manhattan. I don't know where the convention was, but they were doing a little tourism also, and they met a Sankirtan devotee. And the devotee said, gave them a book, and this is Hindu, we're Buddhist, we're not interested. And the intelligent Sankirtan devotee opened it up, showed the picture of Das Avatar, said, no, we also worship Buddha. So they thought, well, okay, this is interesting. They gave $20, took a Bhagavad-Gita. Got home, read it. Well, this is just Krishna Bhakti, and, that we're not interested. But we have a Hindu doctor friend. So they put it in their suitcase, took it back to Myanmar, and they gave it to their Hindu doctor. Now, their Hindu doctor friend, who later became an initiated devotee, at the time was an impersonalist, Sankaracharya follower, was a big jnani. And said, oh, this is bhakti, send him, I'm not interested, and put it on his bookshelf. You ever been to a doctor's office? They got so many bookshelves and stacks of this and that, So it was just in a remote corner gathering dust. Now, this young, who was the son of the doctor, he wanted to learn English, because if he learned English, then when he got to Thailand or Singapore or wherever he could get some kind of job and try to, just bootstrap himself out of this, horrible poverty and miserable country, make a life for himself somewhere else. So he's in his father's office, and he sees this book with an English Bhagavad-Gita as it is. He thinks, oh, well, I'll just get an English book. I'll get an English, Burmese English, dictionary. I'll teach myself English. So by reading, his only interest was to learn English for economic development. As he started translating every third word from Burmese to English, English to Burmese, by the time he got to the 6th chapter, he told me, he was a devotee. He became a devotee, completely convinced. Then what to do? As he was looking through the book, a card fell out. I remember we used to blow in these cards that you could fill in this card and you get one free book. So you could get a free coming back. So he thought, and the country was so corrupt, he filled out the card and he thought, well, okay, I'll send it off. It'll never get out of Burma because our mail is so messed up. If it gets to America, they're never going to send a book all the way to Burma. And if they send it to Burma, it'll get stolen in the mail. I'll never get it, but why not? So he filled out the card, sent it off thinking, well, it's 1 in 1,000 chance anything will ever happen. Now, Bhakti Vikash Maharaj was preaching in Thailand. He was a brahmachari at the time. What was his name? Yeah, Ilapati. So he was a brahmachari, and he was preaching in Thailand. And Thailand is a rough place. Thailand is like Hawaii, a lot of enjoying spirit, so, it was a tough spot. So he thought, well, let me just get a break, and I'll go somewhere else. So he contacted the BBT in Los Angeles, and he said, you got any names? And he was thinking Vietnam, Cambodia, he wasn't thinking about Myanmar or Burma at all. He said, you got any names, any contact? He said, well, we just got this card from Burma. Hey, and here's the name and address. Now, you could not, if you went to Myanmar because of the military government, you could get a tourist visa or a business visa. Tourist visa meant you were on the bus, you had a government minder, you went exactly where they want, you stayed in a government hotel, just like going to Moscow, you were totally monitored. You couldn't go off, you couldn't meet anybody and talk to them, so what was the use of that? And the only way you could get a business visa, which gave you freedom, you could get a 24-hour business visa. But you had to have a name and address that you could present as your sponsor. So all of a sudden, he's got a name and address, and it's a real, because if they check it out, it's a real name, it's a real address, real phone number. So he filled out the visa thing. 6 months later, whatever it was, he got the visa for 24 hours. So our young college student teaching himself English in Burma with Bhagavad-Gita, now he's a devotee, comes home from college, and he said sitting in his house was Bhakti Vikas Swami as a brahmachari, and his grandmother's Hindu family is cooking him chapatis and sabji, and he's chanting verses from Bhagavad-Gita. Within 24 hours, he taught him how to offer prasadam, how to do this, how to do so many things. And every 6 months, because you couldn't do it more than this, he could get it every 6 months, he'd get a 24-hour visa. And he would just answer all of his questions and chant japa with him and give him just juice him up. So what happened, because he was becoming, this young college student becoming more enthusiastic devotee, he got in a huge fight, repeatedly fights with his impersonalist Sankaracharya father, Dr. Father, who said, you either give up all this garbage and you go to college, you finish your college and become a doctor, or you have to I'm throwing you out of the house. The college student said, you can't throw me out of the house. I leave. I will not live in the house of a snake Sankaracharya and he stormed out of the house. Now he had nowhere to live. We're almost done. A couple blocks away, there was an abandoned Jagannath temple. Literally, roof caving in. It was just because the Hindus couldn't get any business contracts from the Buddhist government and the Buddhist businessmen. And so most of the Hindu businessmen left, and they were the ones supporting the temples. So a lot of dilapidated temples. So he was living in an abandoned Jagannath temple. And he said that when in the rainy season, he would chant japa and hold an umbrella over the Jagannath deities and chant japa. And gradually he fixed the roof. And then gradually he kind of cleaned up the front area. Now there were some elderly Hindu lady, pious ladies. They saw, there's a monk. And he's cleaning the temple. So they started bringing grains. They started bringing their husbands. Their husbands gave some money. And that became the first temple, ISKCON temple in Burma, in Myanmar. And from that temple, because there were a lot of other abandoned temples, we have a temple in Mandalay, which is the old capital. It's literally 3 blocks from the old royal compound where all the tourists come. There's a boat as big as this temple, shaped like a swan. It's the royal barge that the king used to sail on. And so it's a huge tourist spot. Right down that main road, they go right past our temple, which was donated to us. We have a restaurant, we have a temple, we have a nice ashram right on the main drag. In the main college town, I forget the name of, it'll come to me afterwards, but in the main college town, we have a temple that was donated to us. It was built by Rajasthani businessmen. Half the kitchen is half the side of this temple room, all marble with a well in the middle of it. And it's beautiful Rajasthani style. It needed repairs. It had a huge cultural hall. The roof was completely caved in. So here's the last thing. Now that he was initiated devotee, fired up in preaching, his name is Srivas Pandit. Srivas Pandit Prabhu, there was a Hindu family. The father was always engaged in the business, no time for the family and no time for the wife. He got into drinking. The wife was going to divorce him. The son was just a lazy layabout. The daughter had boyfriends, this, that. The whole thing was a mess, right? He preached to them. They all became devotees. The father shaped up. The wedding was saved. The son became a good partner, nice devotee. The girl married it. He arranged for the girl to marry another nice devotee boy, saved the family. The businessman, in addition to all these other businesses, he had just purchased it's 100% true, had purchased a ruby mine. Now, all the rubies have been, because Burma's famous, it's a very wealthy country as far as natural resources. So the gold, jade, emeralds, rubies. So the all the big rubies had jewel quality rubies had been mined out. So, but they're still industrial rubies. They put them in laser, those things. So many things they put them in. So he bought it, opened it up, and he's told the first ruby we get, I'm going to donate to the temple. And he was thinking it'd be worth about $1,000, $3,000. First ruby they found was the size of a ping pong ball or a golf ball. It was worth like, I don't know, in its raw form, $500,000, something like that. So he didn't want to give it, actually. And the wife said, no, you made a promise. If you don't give it, who knows what will happen to us, you have to give it. So he gave it. And from that sale of that ruby, now Myanmar was just opening up. Yangon, the capital, was just opening up. We bought a building right on the main street for $200,000. That same building now is worth $2.5 million. We have a restaurant on the ground floor. We have a temple on the second floor. They have their printing press on the third floor. With the rest of the money he invested, and with that money, they've been fixing up all the temples. So now we've gotten so many temples donated to us. We told them, we can't take any more temples. We can't staff them anymore. So we've got about 12 beautiful temples donated to us. They have that Jagannath temple. They've completely built. It's a beautiful Bengali-style temple. It's just a full-on temple with shikars and the whole thing, all teak wood. Beautiful temple. I'm almost done. And we have a Gurukula, because the tradition in Burma is that, just like the Irish, they in the old days, they wanted to have at least one son, one daughter become a priest or a nun. It was considered pious, And in Burma, everyone has their kid live as a Buddhist monk or a nun. Maybe for a year, maybe for life. They take different vows like that. So he convinced the Hindus, you've got so many kids, give me one kid, let me train them as a Vaishnava. So at any given time, they've got about 60 kids, and it's first class. The Child Protection Office is there. It's in one of the most beautiful, it's called Little India. And it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in the world. And it's all where they grow all the rice and all the mangoes. And there's this beautiful Gurukula. There's about 60 kids there, all well taken care of. When they grow up, they all become the brahmacharis for supporting the temple. So these are all the aspects of this beautiful yatra, and it came from one book distributed 10,000 miles away. So that is the power of book distribution. We don't know where the books are. Prabhupada said, just get them out. You don't know where. It's like billiards balls. This one's going to bounce off this and bounce off. There was a devotee who is now our temple president of the, Nishringa Shetta? What is the name of that German farm? Anyway, where they have the beautiful Lord Nishringadev deity, the president of that temple, he was hiking in the Black Forest, in the German Black Forest. And he was thinking, what is the meaning of life? If there's God, why all this cat and mouse? Why doesn't he just tell me the truth? Why doesn't he just, strike me with lightning? I'm ready to surrender. Tell me how, tell me who, just hit me over the head with it. I'm ready. Now, in Germany, the government maintains what they call, I don't know the name of them, but they're like little cabins in the forest at like a rest stop. And every one of them, they have a stove, they have some provisions, they have a bathroom, they have a shower. And it's for people, when they're hiking, they can, like that. So he's thinking like this, ruminating, if, just hit me over the head with it, I'm ready. He feels the call of nature. He sees one of these cabins. He goes in, he's doing his business. Now, it's old school, has the water tank above. When he pulled the lever, the whole water tank, wood came down on his head. And bouncing off his head was a copy of Bhagavad-Gita. Somebody had been doing their business, reading Bhagavad-Gita, and just put it like you put it on a shelf, put it on top of the water tank above the bathroom. It literally bounced off his head. He read Bhagavad-Gita, became a devotee. So we don't know what's happening. It's not our business. Ours is not the reason why. Ours is but to do or die. Just get out there and distribute the books because they will do wonderful things.
Huh? You want to tell me? You want me to tell? Do you want me to tell you a far out story similar to one you just said? We have a couple minutes. This person, he's on a walk in the forest, and he's walking through the forest. He's got a dog with him, and as he's walking through the forest, his dog starts sniffing on something. And he tries to pull him away, but the doggy wants to sniff it. So, what are you sniffing at? I didn't even see. So he moves the leaves around. Krishna book. So he's, what is this?
Man's best friend.
What's this book doing here? So he sits down and he starts reading it, and he finds it kind of interesting. So he's, oh, this is kind of nice. So he takes it home. He reads it. He becomes a devotee. Yeah. So the first time in history that a dog was a Varman Pradarsika guru. I forgot it. He's a Prabhupada disciple. He's the one that, the Cheech and Chong, he was the one that punched Cheech. You know that story?
No.
Yeah. Either Cheech or Chong was harassing the devotees. One lady in the airport, she's a student book, and he's harassing her like anything. So this devotee, I forgot his name. He was here for a while. I can't remember his name. Huh?
What year?
He's got kids. He has kids that grew up here. They were here back 10, 15 years ago. Anyway, so Cheech or Chong, they're harassing this Mataji, and he goes up and says, "Hey, buddy, just leave her alone. She's trying to do some godly work here. Hey, who are you?" He gives him a push, and he's a tough guy. He's Italian. He just reeled back, just knocked this Cheech or Chong, I don't know which one, just knocked him down. Good. So the cops comes, and the guy and Cheech or Chong, whichever one, he didn't press charges because, hey, I'm impressed. That guy's pretty tough, so he didn't press charges.
You got a little shot for his spirit.
But that's how he became a devotee. I can't remember. He lived here for a while. He had two sons.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, everyone. Jai Srila Prabhupada.